Welcome to HeartTube. My name is Jim Putnam. I'm excited for this video. I came to Tybee Island for a vacation, and I can't take a vacation without exploring gardens someplace. So I sent out an email to a company called Victory Gardens and asked if they had any interesting projects going on. And they have a really beautiful project going on. Alex, can you introduce yourself and the company?
Yeah, sure. My name is Alex Camellia. I've been with Victory Gardens for not quite 2 years now, but I'm a graduate of UGA Horticulture Department.
Well,
briefly managed a vineyard, and then I came right down here to work with these guys and install some beautiful landscapes.
This particular landscape is a coming together of a landscape designer who likes to use native natural spaces with a homeowner who demanded native natural spaces and a company who likes to.
Yeah, I think that this project has really been a perfect storm, and of anything that I've installed, I mean, for this company it's by far the biggest project that I've done. This is almost a whole acre of planting. Yeah. And the backyard has been my favorite thing that I've installed so far, and that means we're only halfway done. I'm going to be really happy with the final product, I think.
Nice, nice. So yeah, we're out here in the front garden space. Driveway was installed, and they're laying out plants and planting the front garden space. We're going to jump to the back and do a tour of that back garden space.
Sweet.
All right, so this is kind of the entryway into the back garden space, and you guys have completed a lot of it.
A lot of it. It's not perfect yet because we've been, the supply chain on hardscaping material is pretty bad right now.
Right. You said plants have gotten better, though, a little bit.
Plants have gotten a little bit better, yeah. We haven't had too much trouble getting our hands on what we need.
Okay, gotcha. And so you're some sort of patio space is going on?
Yeah, so this is going to end up being a sort of green grid patio space. Our pavers are 2x2 concrete and tabby. Okay. And there's going to be mondo grass border on each of those pavers.
Okay, got like dwarf mondo.
Yeah, dwarf
okay.
mondo.
So we've got a Confederate jasmine, star jasmine, up on the up here, and
that's
then
mature. Didn't plant that.
Right. You guys sodded this?
Yes. This actually just went in just last week, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And it's a zoysia?
This is Empire zoysia. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. And it has a wider blade.
Yeah.
Than some of the others, and kind of blends in more with the kind of the turf that's here, the St. Augustine, as you see.
It does look closer to St. Augustine for sure.
Right. Okay. Sasanqua camellias on this side, and then some japonicas up against the house. So you got your fall blooming camellias. So there's a lot of natives back here, but some of the existing things that have been left in space are
right. Yeah. I mean, the mature stuff that still look good. Of course, we mostly left. We have Japanese.
Right.
So not all of it is native, but a lot of the new stuff that has gone in.
You can't do a landscape job, doesn't seem like, from Charleston south into Florida without a podocarpus. Right. Yeah. You got to have a podocarpus. You have to have a podocarpus.
Yeah. And they work well in the landscape. So.
Oh yeah, they're indestructible, and they're tough. So one thing. Okay, so. This is just sand. I mean, we're on a sandbar, basically.
It's very sandy soil. It's sand and organic matter.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's the black, that kind of black component to it is some sort of, okay. So how do you amend this? How do you keep your heavy nutrients from sinking quick, with the amount of rainfall and
We just try to maximize organic matter whenever we can.
Okay.
Just use that to hold on to nutrients.
Right, so you're mixing in as you're planting. I saw in the front garden, the ground is covered, and it's getting mixed in as you're planting.
Yeah,
what is that a mix
it does end up getting mixed in as we're planting. We shoot for about an inch or two of that planting mix, in over the entire planting bed. On a property like this where we're planting, planting bed space is maybe a quarter acre.
Right, yeah.
That's a little bit hard to do sometimes, so it's a little bit thinner out there maybe, but the soil isn't too bad on this site. We've got lots of mature trees that have been mulching this area for, who knows how long.
Right.
So it's really not, it's not pure sand.
Right, I got you.
So it doesn't, we don't have too much trouble.
So tell us some of the grasses that have been used, the ornamental grasses.
Yeah, so let's see. We've got a couple different ones, and a lot of them are the same as up front. We have different swaths of muley grass, the purple love grass. This is a panicum.
Yep.
And I believe that this is a grass that, the common name at least, is Fakahatchee.
Gotcha.
Another native grass that, Thomas really likes to use in his designs.
Gotcha. And I would imagine with the breeze, we're not getting a breeze. We're commenting we haven't had a breeze for a few days, but normally back here.
Normally, we really, really love working here because we get this beautiful breeze off the marsh, and it's a lot cooler than working downtown in a courtyard getting baked.
Right. But then with these native grasses, they're going to move around in that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They're going
to
to create a little
really
movement.
nice effect. I love that, especially with some of the river oats that we have further down.
Right. So you panicum, and then lovegrass. Lovegrass is something I used to use on banks and slopes, and it's just a great that's really an underused grass. I don't really see this on many projects. And then of course you got Yopon hollies.
Yep. So that's an existing Yopon, and behind it we planted 2 large ones, maybe 30-gallon trees.
Yeah, there's a lot of variation in if you see the native ones with the larger leaves and smaller leaves.
Yeah,
and
this one definitely has larger leaves than the ones that we planted for sure.
Right.
Other thing I'll point out is the mature red Buckeye that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Even this mature one is looking a little bit beat up in the heat right now, and the ones that we planted are not faring.
And we're probably in the absolute southern area for them.
I wonder if I was actually quite surprised that it was growing here at all, but apparently it actually kind of likes these marsh edges.
Oh, gotcha. Maybe keeps the feet cooler.
Something like that.
Using sweet viburnum as a screening plant, that's pretty common here. Huh?
Yeah, it's definitely a common planting here.
Yeah, dense. I'm in, what zone are you guys?
About 9, somewhere either A or B, I'm not sure.
Okay, so this is Skidaway Island.
We are on Skidaway Island.
Which is southeast of Savannah, is that?
South, let's see, the way that the coast goes, I mean, we're pretty much directly south.
Directly south, okay. And so, yeah, we're in zone 7B, and the sweet viburnum has to definitely be up against a house. It can't be, we were right on the edge of where, serious winter damage.
Yeah, it's really happy here, and it's also very deer tolerant, which is a big reason why it gets planted in the landings especially. That's a huge consideration for everything that we're planting on this property because the deer in this community are absolutely rampant.
Yeah, and I was just talking to the homeowner a minute ago, and you can get, when I started this channel 5 years ago, I would call things deer resistant, and then in every one of those videos I've ever said something was deer resistant, down at the bottom is somebody whose deer eats it. Right. And so I've just quit. I've just kind of stopped. Yeah. And so this homeowner moves a half a mile away from her old house in the same community, and the deer eat different things here that they didn't eat over there. Yep. That's how hard this can actually be when you have this kind of pressure. So the sword fern over here, it was in a much bigger space.
That's existing, and it was occupying a much larger space. We had to pin it back to this tree quite a bit. I did transplant some to the backside, but it was stretching almost all the way to the house over here.
Right.
And you can see it's already trying to come back into that space.
Yeah, it's not easy work digging that out.
Nope, so.
Either. So you're same kind of path. In the front garden, it's going to be...
So all of the pathway in the front that is edged in with steel is going to be paver, but there's some pathway kind of that continues from this corner of the house that is going to come into the front yard that's going to be mulched.
Right. This is what I do at my house and in other, other gardens that we visit, using some sort of wood chips as the as the path. It just makes such a great. Keeps the weeds down, subtly improving the soil. Things are probably rooting right under it.
And it's very similar in structure to the mulch that we use in the beds. It's just a different color. So I think it had a really nice effect in this space for defining the walkway.
Gotcha. You have Farfugium on the entryway. Do you use lots of that down here?
Yeah, we use a ton of it down here. I was very shocked to find that the deer don't touch it. Right. And not on any job site that we've planted it, the deer will not touch it. Right. And that surprised me because it looks like a pretty tasty leaf.
It does. It does. It does look like a big lettuce.
It does, doesn't it? But they won't eat it for some reason. And one of the reasons that I really love it in particular is because it blooms in the winter for us, December, January.
Oh, okay. That was about to ask. Okay, so for us it's blooming September, October-ish. It's like a fall bloomer for us.
Yeah, so we get a little bit of color in the middle of the winter with it.
Okay, so I imagine it's a soil temperature has to hit a certain spot or something like that. Yeah, okay, gotcha. What types of palms are?
That, so the larger palms that we planted, these are European fan palms.
Okay, gotcha. And I have a blue version of the European fan palm.
We have some similar looking plants that we put out closer to the marsh here, and those are actually the native silver saw palmetto.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha.
But yeah, some of these larger ones are the European fan palms, which do really well here.
So the Mondo grass was almost certainly an addition for deer resistance.
Well, yeah, it was probably in hopes that the deer wouldn't touch it quite so much. It's tolerating the deer. As you can see, it's not dying, but it's definitely been eaten back quite a bit.
Gotcha, yeah. And then what are your other...
We've got Ajuga, I think it's 2 different varieties of Ajuga. It's chocolate chip and one other that's, I can't remember now because it's been almost 2 months since we planted this.
How long have those before they've been in the ground?
I mean, 2 months maybe.
And they've exploded.
Really, yeah, a lot of them have really taken off. So I'm really happy with that one.
You get the variegated ginger?
Yeah, so that was actually there was one large clump of variegated ginger right here, and we dug it all out, separated it, and put it into 2 different clumps. Right. And it took really well to that.
Gotcha. What's your other grass back here in the...
So we've got river oats here, and then kind of defining this pathway back here is, and I'm not going to be able to tell you the scientific name, but slender spike grass.
Yeah,
It's a common name that we're using on it.
I got you. And it will, as a liriope replacement kind of a thing.
Basically,
yes,
yeah.
Right,
so this is sort of our low spot in the yard, and our wholesaler, he dug all of this out of like a swamp on his property, basically.
Oh, I got you.
So it's a really, it really likes having wet feet.
Right.
So I felt like that was a good spot for it.
So I mean, one of the missions here is to not block this incredible
Right.
view they have out here.
Right.
So everything you got gets, what, 3 to 4 feet in that range, except for a couple.
Right, so we have a couple yaupons in here that are kind of in front of an area that was already getting a little blocked by trees.
Right, oh, that's smart, okay.
But we actually we modified the design essentially, because these large yaupons were originally actually spec'd to go on that back corner.
Okay, gotcha.
But we had to move them over here because once we put them in place, we realized we were going to be blocking the view from the porch down the marsh towards the south.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, sometimes you modify things in the field, and I tell people that all the time about going and buying things and then living with them in a container somewhere. Yeah. And then putting them in the ground.
Yeah, just wait a minute, see how it feels.
Yeah, right, yeah. You don't end up having to transplant them quite as often. We've almost overlooked maybe the star of the show out here. Yeah. What are these?
These are all live oaks, coastal live oaks, Quercus virginiana.
Right.
You know, host species to a lot of different things. You can see the Spanish moss. You can see the resurrection fern.
Right.
Maybe a little bit. It's a little bit dry right now, but I think the resurrection fern is really special. It always tells you when you need to water your yard.
Right. Yeah.
If they're brown, then you do. If they're green, don't bother.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good. Yeah. That's a good call. I always said one branch on a live oak probably has more things alive on it than there are people.
Yeah.
On the plant. It's just incredible.
They're very great trees.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no 2 that are alike.
Right.
That's another defining feature to live oaks. But so that was the star of the show back here. So you start off with a shady space that's very typical of Savannah.
Some really mature trees.
Right.
With some other species blended in, but yeah, some really special live oaks.
And what was the homeowner had a request here on how this looked?
Yeah, so when talking with the designer, what she really wanted was to feel like the marsh was just kind of jumping onto her property, and I think that what ended up happening is exactly that. What we did was sort of blend some formal plantings with things that are going to feel a little bit more wild, like the marsh is just jumping in. Right. And it's kind of like a meeting point between a fine landscape and the marsh. So.
Gotcha. Nice. So what ferns are represented out here? Some native and some non-native?
Some native, some non-native. We've got our autumn ferns. We've got southern shield ferns, or southern wood ferns, I think. And a Japanese holly fern that I'm not sure if we brought any Japanese holly ferns in or if they were just existing and we kind of moved them around.
Yeah,
and there was one other species of fern in here somewhere that was existing that I just kind of moved around a little bit.
Right. Okay, so finishing up back this way, there's more of the Mondo. Of course, there are some Ligustrum, Japanese Ligustrum that are back here, which as much as we, it's native now. I hate to say that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hate to say that.
The way that I
but,
feel.
But what else would you say about it? Right. It's from Raleigh, where I'm at, all the way to the middle of Florida. They're everywhere you look.
At this point, we're not getting rid of it. It's naturalized. Sometimes it's a little bit invasive, but
right.
I guess it's fine.
Right. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about those kinds of things because people like use natives. Not going to change.
Well,
anything.
and we did. We planted as many natives as we could, but at a certain point, there's just no sense in ripping out these 30-year-old shrubs that look just fine. So
you repeating a lot of the grasses back here, and then
a couple of them.
You transplanted the one cycad back here to the back.
That's a sago palm, which we have planted all over Savannah. That is, I believe, a cycad native to Madagascar or something like that, but it is planted all over the place.
Gotcha.
And we do have one native cycad planted here. The common name that we use around here is a Coontie palm. Couldn't tell you why,
right.
But I can tell you that it is our native cycad. I can't remember the scientific name right now. But,
gotcha. Does it form?
It's not gonna get a trunk like the sago does. It just kind of bushes up a little bit. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't get nearly as big as the sago.
Nice. So what is the purpose of your raised bed back up toward the house?
So we basically built this kind of foundation bed all around the front of the house here instead of a gutter.
Right.
For whatever reason, people in Savannah don't like gutters too much, so all the rain just rolls right off the roof, and we just have these kind of sparse plantings in these beds with basically a seashell mulch to catch the rain and keep it from washing anything out.
Right, and got some gardenias going in?
Well, so those gardenias are going to end up in this bed up here. Everything that is going to get planted in that bed has already been planted.
Right.
And then we have just this trellis up here with the trumpet flower growing on it.
Nice, gotcha. What will this path be? Or
so this is another area that the owner has requested to leave open just for her to put whatever annuals or perennials that she wants in. So it's going to be a lot of space just for her to play with.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I was talking to her earlier. So that was a request of hers, was to leave some spaces for her to have fun with. And then you're putting in some edibles along this.
Yeah, this side. So on this side of the house, we're doing a lot more in the way of edible stuff. Most of it's not in yet, but you can see 3 citrus up on the berm here that we're planting today. Among the citrus are going to be all kinds of perennial and annual herbs, whatever the owner wants. The only thing that I'm planting myself is the row of rosemary up front, and then she's just going to play with it however she sees fit.
Okay.
Over to our right over here, we don't have anything in yet, but that's going to be vegetable raised beds for her to play with as well.
Okay. Using the sunlight. This is the spot of sunlight, as you can tell from the video
this is the sunnier side of the house for sure.
Gotcha. And then so there'll be more groupings of the grass. They're over here planting the love grass now. And then and more patches of the native.
Yeah,
native
definitely.
grasses.
So we're repeating a lot of the same species as we used in the backyard up here. And I think maybe adding one more. I don't think that we planted any of the mat rush in the backyard, but we have it along the front of the house here, and it's going to go on the outside of that berm as well.
Right. One ornamental tree. You got to.
Yeah, that's a Vitex, Agnus castus. That was actually a request from Cheryl's husband.
Oh, okay,
Paul
gotcha.
Has a attachment, an affinity for.
And I do as well. I would pick it over a crepe myrtle any day, just because
too.
you get pollinators all over it.
I think it's a wonderful tree.
So this wall you guys put in.
Yeah. So this was a bit unconventional. I had to go all the way to South Carolina to find somewhere that would sell us 100 of these piles that, I mean, would usually be used for building docks or something like that.
Right.
But the landscape architects spec this just like that. They're buried about halfway into the ground.
Okay, wow.
In a base of gravel.
Another 3 feet or so.
They're set about 2.5 feet in gravel below ground, and then another almost foot of dirt, and then whatever you see above ground.
Right.
And so this whole berm was not existing.
Right. Yeah. You're creating a hill where there are none.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of it was the excavation for the driveway. It was just. What do we do with all this fill dirt? And it was an easy way to not have to haul it off site.
Yeah, perfect.
And add a nice, aesthetic touch to the place.
Right. So tell folks how you're in the Savannah area. Tell everybody about Victory Gardens.
Yeah. So Victory Gardens, we're definitely a little bit unique in town, I'd say. We definitely emphasize ecological plantings, natives. The company got its start, Carrie and Reed, almost 10 years ago, started installing vegetable gardens for people, just raised beds in people's yards. And it's slowly kind of grown into what it is today, where we're planting a half acre of native grasses and a paradise. But yeah, humble beginnings, and now we work on all kinds of high-end landscapes here in Savannah.
Nice. I saw some pineapple guavas we didn't mention as well, which is one that we can
just barely get.
Yeah, we're never going to see a fruit, but we hit the flowers. The flowers are great.
We used to get fruit in Athens.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's definitely 8A.
Yeah.
In Athens. So you're a UGA grad, and you guys have seen Dr. Durr on the channel. You've seen Dr. Armitage on the channel. You've seen the amount of time I've spent in Athens. I can't stay away from that place.
Oh, it's a great place.
It's a great town. Oh my gosh, it's such a great town. So thank you very much, Alex.
Yeah.
And thank you to Victory Gardens for allowing me to come to this wonderful landscape today. Thanks for watching.